Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to our Women Together Connect. It's a joy to see everyone and to connect with each other and be together today, Tuesday at noon Eastern. Here we are. And many of us are already saying hello in the chat. So warm welcome. And feel free to share a little bit of where you're coming from. Sometimes we also share the weather because it just reminds us that we're in this. I mean, in part, it's because if we were just gathering together, we'd say, "Oh, it's raining outside. Oh, isn't it a beautiful day?" You know, there's just that little moment of coming in and landing and grounding and being together. But it's also the recognition that what's going on out in the world may be a reflection of what's going on inside. So sometimes, I don't know if this happened for any of you, but we've had some rainy days in New York. And for me, I sat inside and got nice and cozy and made myself some soup. So there's sometimes this outer weather, external weather that reminds me that I need to take care of myself differently. So just recognizing that we all are dealing with a different external weather and we're also all dealing with a different internal weather. So we'll focus today on our internal weather, but let's recognize the external weather that's happening out there as well. So I see, I'll just share a few of these greetings out here. And I see greetings from sunny Arlington, Massachusetts, Winchester, Mass. I see Sweden in the house. Welcome. Hudson Valley, New York, Brooklyn, New York. Survived the weekend floods, now have glorious sunshine. Exactly. New York City, Tampa Bay, Florida, Felton, California. Wonderful. West Palm Beach, where it's sunny for now and dry. So we're seeing hurricane season across the East Coast of the United States. Bloomfield, Connecticut, Chicago, sunny. Beautiful fall day in greater Atlanta. Wonderful. So many of us are coming in from all over the world a bit and definitely across the United States. So a warm welcome to all. And I know that many are still joining. Some of us may be saying hello in YouTube. If you are joining us via YouTube, feel free to join in the comment section. You can share a little bit of where you're coming from today. And yeah, so today we're going to focus a little bit on lifting each other up and what that means. And I thought actually, so Gloria Steinem came in person and did an interview with us a few years ago, right before the pandemic. And she said some really powerful things. One is one that she says often, and I think is a well-known phrase, that we are linked, not ranked. And so I was thinking about that as we were thinking about this topic of lifting each other up and really being together in this way. And I thought that I would start our session today before we even do our moment of stillness and connection here on just reminding why we do this. And Gloria is a big proponent for this in community and coming together. And she says the most effective means we have to build community and come together, the most effective means we have is to talk to each other in groups. She said, human beings are communal creatures. If we're by ourselves, we come to feel crazy and alone. We need to make alternate families of small groups of women who support each other, talk to each other regularly, can speak their truths and their experiences, and find they're not alone in them, that other women have them too. So it's a systemic problem. It makes such a huge difference. If I could have one structural wish for the women's movement, it would be that we have a kind of Alcoholics Anonymous group structure all over the world. So whenever you go into a different village or town, you can find the feminist equivalent of an AA group to go to once a week and get some support and help with seeing the politics of what's happening to us. And I just thought that is such a poignant reason for why we come together and why we've continued to come together as this community and continue to hold strong on our Tuesdays at noon Eastern, that anyone can join from anywhere and wherever we are, to just be reminded, to just reconnect with ourselves, reconnect with each other, reconnect with the knowledge that inside a group of women, there's so much that we can start to see and sense just by listening to each other, just by talking to each other, by having a conversation that's not about he said this and she said that and then do, but really that's about caring for ourselves, caring for each other, and just opening up a little window of that care for this hour. So just a reminder of what we are doing together today. We'll focus a little bit more on the concept of being linked, not ranked. But before we do that, I'd like to just invite us into a little moment of stillness and a little moment to just land here together today. So, wherever you may find yourself today, you can feel perhaps your feet on the floor. Perhaps that's available to you. I'm sitting cross legged, and that may be a way for you as well. Sometimes I'm standing and I can feel my feet on the floor. Sometimes we're in whatever position we are. So just landing here together today. And you can close your eyes or lower your gaze if you want to, but just kind of letting yourself, maybe even just taking your focus away from the screen for a moment, just softening the gaze. And as you soften the gaze, just recognizing that we often are going through the day like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And as we soften into a more open sense of awareness, a more open sense of porousness between who we are and who we're speaking to, or who we are in the world around us, just softening into a sense of open awareness. And just feeling the breath moving in and out of the body. Letting the breath be the guide of what we might need in this moment, knowing that the breath is always here for us. It's something we can keep coming back to. And the breath is going to find the places that need it most right now. The breath can heal with the inhale and the exhale, the release. At every moment, we're taking something in, something new, something fresh. And every moment, we're releasing what we don't need. We're taking something in, something new, something fresh, and we're releasing with the exhale what we don't need. Just continue to follow that breath. And when you're ready, you can just reconnect with yourself, maybe even just connecting with what you're hearing, the ability to be aware of what you're hearing. Maybe that starts to bring you back. And then perhaps there's also a connection to what brought you here today in the first place. What actually brought you here to this Women Together Connect, this group of people? Maybe there's a word or phrase that can capture that intention. What brought you here today? When you're ready, you can type into the chat what brought you here today. Maybe just a word or a phrase. And again, I'll read a few of those out. But what brought you here today? We'll just type that in. Maybe it's the topic. Maybe you just come every week. Maybe there's some deeper reason. I see Kathleen shared slowing down and connecting. Hope for tomorrow, to center myself, to connect with other women. Connection. Positivity and community. Love this. A reminder that we are one, togetherness, connection with intelligent and interesting women of different ages and backgrounds, and all of the above. Beautiful. So now's a little moment that we will just turn to each other and see one another. So if you can put yourself on video for just a moment, this is an opportunity for us to be able to really see each other and to be seen. So if you're here on Zoom, you can click on the view button in the top right corner and go into the gallery, and just a little welcoming. I love this. The waves that start where everyone just, we start to see each other. It's what happens when we pass each other in a hallway or we come into a room together. We haven't seen each other in a while. Oh, you're here. Oh, you've arrived. So really just allowing ourselves to see each other and to feel each other, to feel each other. So almost as if our whole being can be porous, like eyes or ears or hearts, and we can just feel each other as we come into this space. And can I feel myself as I'm feeling you? Can I feel myself as I'm feeling into this community? Can I feel you feeling me? Knowing that we're all coming from different moments and different experiences in our lives. Wonderful. Part of this experience of seeing each other and feeling each other is exactly what allows us to lift each other up and to share with one another. Wherever we may come from, whatever our experiences may be, that we share with each other and lift each other up from a place of recognizing our common humanity, not just our common gender, but our common humanity. Beautiful. So just taking a breath. Maybe we all take a breath together. We can exhale everything out completely, fully. Exhale everything out. And then we can fill the belly, fill the chest and the collarbones. And then exhale out completely. And just coming back to our regular breath. Beautiful. So as I mentioned, this quote from Gloria Steinem, this "we are linked, not ranked," and what I wanted to bring in a little bit. Marion Schnall is one of Gloria's mentees, the woman who started feminist.com. She's a very special human and has interviewed many powerful women leaders. And one of the things that she brought into the discussion around this quote of "we are linked, not ranked" is that we are looking at a shift in a paradigm of human history. And in a lot of ways, that has moved from this kind of triangle experience to a circle experience. And one of our dear teachers, Wendy Palmer, she talked a lot about this, the triangle versus the circle. And Wendy talked about it not as an either or, that we're moving from one to the other, but Wendy talked about it as often you see people who are leading, they will make hand gestures or they'll be talking in a way, and I'm lifting my hands more, but they might be like in their lap or something. There are pictures of Angela Merkel, and other women leaders who you'll see when they're trying to make a point and they're trying to advocate for something, they'll make some sort of triangle. There's some sort of cut, there's some sort of push that's moving through, to make a point, to have some specific reality. And when we're trying to be more inclusive and more open, or bring people in or really listen to the voices in the room, that we make a circle gesture. Sometimes we sit back, sometimes we open up, and the gesture of our own bodies changes. And so, what I wanted to bring in is this idea of moving from this triangle experience or the pyramid experience into more of the circle, and how we do that in our lives and how we do that in the world, in our own communities. So it's basically saying that we are moving from something that has been hierarchical, and if you think about traditional military sort of ways of ranking, literally putting one person on top of the other, deciding who, there's a lot of ways and reasons that that works, and we don't want to throw that out. We don't want to throw it out completely and say, we can never use that, but we say that there's a time and a place, and that when what we've what we've seen is that has become the dominant order, then we revert consistently to that way of being, and we start to treat each other that way, we start to treat ourselves that way. We look at each other as trying to find a positionality, trying to find, I have this position, you have this position. We look for cues all the time of ways that we can put ourselves above somebody else. And there's so many wonderful reasons for that, right? Our childhood, what we didn't get, we weren't enough, we didn't belong. So we find ways to then say, how do I see myself as being on top of or better than? And that becomes a kind of ranking in our society. That becomes a better than means. And I think often with women that's happening because I mean, for me at least, I've had many times where I felt that I'm not enough. And when I feel that I'm not enough, even if it's not conscious, if I feel that I'm not enough, I'm constantly putting somebody else down in order to feel like I'm enough for myself. So what I find that this little phrase captures is that we're actually linked. That anything that happens to me, even just the focus that we had on the breath just now, the breath moving in and out, the breath moving up and down, that when we focus on the ways that we're actually linked to each other, that we're interdependent, that we live in this one world, this common humanity, that we shift our way of thinking from being better than or enough or not, to recognizing that each of us has a role to play. Each of us has, if we're coming into each other's lives, we're going to learn something, we're going to grow, we're going to get to experience each other. And that often that linkage that we have with each other is the invitation in. And I think, for me as one of many, many people, I want to kind of be alone or find my little corner of the world and sort of hide out there. And that starts to cut me off from the feeling quality of that linkage. Like my some of my family, my father's side of the family is Indian. And so when I go to India, I immediately feel that I'm in this web of connection. I immediately feel that I'm in this interdependence, of just anything that I do is going to be affected. Is going to affect someone, is going to affect me. And I can feel it immediately in the kind of throng and hum of humanity. And in the United States, I have this ability to kind of be around nobody for a long time. And it's fairly easy to do that. And I forget that I'm part of this web of connection, this web of common humanity. So how can we lift each other up when we don't even feel that we're connected to each other? So that's a little bit of what I wanted to just share today, and in terms of conceptual blah blah. But what I want to also do is invite in a little journaling. And I love that Joyce shared earlier this reminder that part of coming together in this women together moment, this connect, is a reminder that we are one, a reminder of our oneness and our common humanity. So what I'd love to do is to, um, if you have a moment to just grab a journal and a pen or pencil, that's a great way to feel into something rather than think our way through this thing, to actually bring our body in. So we're not just a little Zoom box head, but we have a bit more, and it can sometimes connect us to our heart and connect us to the work of the hands. So if you can grab a pen and paper, that's great. If you can only use a screen, that's also fine. Um, and just one last bit while we're thinking about that is also just thinking about, these are concepts of how women have been treated too. When we think about the kind of ranking, that for, millennia, women were considered part of the trade, that you could, um, the prized possession could be a wife, and that has continued in various ways, but you can have a woman and a cow and land. That's our way of thinking about the world, has been objectifying it, and that has been true for women, and then we continue to perpetuate that on ourselves and each other. But it's also been true for nature, and when we apply this quality of linking and feeling ourselves as linked, we recognize that we are nature, and that we are, just as much a part of this world. So I just bring that in as a way of looking at how we shift. When we think about things like climate change, and we think of, some of these things that feel external, that we can shift our thinking about that to. I think there's something really powerful when Gloria talks about we are linked, not ranked. It's actually an offering of a different paradigm. So I thank Marion Schnall and Gloria for having that conversation and opening up some of our thinking together. And I hope that me talking has allowed you to find a paper and pen, and we can just start a little moment of reflection. So if you'd like to just take a breath, land yourself here, back in with your paper, your pen, and just any thoughts and feelings that may have come up. Just noticing for a moment what comes up for you when we bring up this, even just this topic of we are linked, not ranked. So the first question is just, what are you noticing? And I'll just share a few questions, and you can write out whatever comes to mind. Just continue to write and see what comes out. So what are you noticing when you think about this topic of we are linked, not ranked? And then just noticing When in my life have I operated in a way that was based on ranking? So, when have I operated in my life or in the world in a way that was about ranking myself or other people in this kind of hierarchy or this pyramid or triangle that I mentioned earlier? When have I operated in my life based on rank? And then noticing when was a time in my life where maybe naturally or maybe with deep intention and consciousness, I operated in a way that was really understanding of the interdependence or the linkages. When was a time that I operated either by intention or by just nature, it naturally happened, that I felt really linked to everything around me? So when was the time that I operated based on linkages and interdependence? So then, as I think about the ideas of being linked, not ranked, I think that we each have a gift that we bring to being part of the world. And so, part of the ways that we can lift each other up and see each other as being linked is recognizing each of our gifts and the importance and the value of each of our gifts. So, for this question, I'd love for you to just list for yourself. You don't ever have to share it if you don't want to, but just list, what are my natural gifts? What are the gifts that I bring to this world? What are the gifts? And I truly know that we each have many. So, what are my natural gifts? And with that, we will turn to each other in breakout rooms. So if you're here with us in Zoom, you will turn to each other and we'll have a small group connection. If you're here with us on YouTube, thank you so much for joining. We will continue throughout the month of October. And for those of you here in Zoom, we'll turn to each other and share our name, where we're coming from, and anything that you want to share about this practice. It could be your gifts, because I think in part we don't talk about it enough. We don't say, hey, I'm really great at this, and this is what I've done, and or this is what I love to do. And one way that we can see each other as linked is by inherently seeing those gifts and then lifting each other up for them. So it's not saying, we're all the same and we're just squashing each other down and saying, don't be special. We're saying we're each special and we each have something to bring to the society, to this world. So to this community even. And so I'd love for just us to just share for a little bit, 20 minutes, put on the clock, and we'll have some time, name where you're coming from and a special gift or anything that you want to share. And we know that this is where the magic happens. So please enjoy the time together, and we'll see you back in 20 minutes.